JP poll time, week 7 edition. What are we talking about here? Not AP ranking. Let me state this clearly. If this is an AP poll, I've got Iowa top 3. But it's not, okay? So Iowa is not going to be as high in this as you want them to be. Let me just preface everything. Kentucky's not going to be as high as you want them to be. This is about one thing and one thing only. Who would this model favor against who, neutral field, if they played tomorrow? Little nugget for you, by the way, right now. We're going to talk about this to end the show. There are 5 Big Ten teams in the top 10 right now. Some of you scoff at that. Some of you say about time to that. Do you know Ohio State would be favored by over a touchdown against every one of them? Now, does that make sense to you? Because they're not undefeated. So is that disrespect? Well, if you think so, then bet the other side. What I'm telling you is the same kind of rating system that would make Ohio State an 8 or 9 point favorite against undefeated Iowa is the same kind of system we use to put together this poll. It is a poll of one. We have one person on this committee, and you're looking at him, except that it's not necessarily me. It's the model that I am responsible for. So I want the credit. The model takes the blame. I'm kind of like Ed Orgeron in that way. So let's go to number 25, and let's work our way down, Jesse. I've got to pull up the file here. Okay, the University of Tennessee is ranked, and I think it's disrespectful, since we're throwing that word around liberally these days. I think it's disrespectful that Tennessee, the state I reside in, is not ranked right now. I'm sorry to all of our Vol fans that our acquaintances in the AP hate you. We don't hate you. We respect you enough that where we put you in the JP poll, and I got news. I don't think that Tennessee's done rising in the JP poll. Colin, Tennessee, 25. 24, Wake Forest, they're up 2 spots. We got Auburn dropping precipitously. Now, I looked at it because that's a big drop just to lose to Georgia. Auburn didn't drop a whole lot. We had some movement. Like Nebraska's at 22. Nebraska's unchanged last week. Even though they lost, I thought Nebraska was going to be higher. In fact, it is my personal opinion that the University of Nebraska right now is underrated at 22. I think they're one of the 20th. I think in a power rating sense, I would put them in my top 20. They have lost to Oklahoma, Michigan State, and Michigan by a combined 13 points the last 3 weeks. They are good enough to be 5-1. They have played at a level to where they could be 5-1. Bob plays, bounces of ball plays, and very inopportune mistakes, aka football, that has brought them down to sub 500. But this is a power rating system, so Nebraska's in there. And Texas A&M moved up a couple of spots. You would expect more, wouldn't you? I would too. I don't know what to tell you. A&M at 21. Hey, they are playing Missouri Saturday, and Missouri's bad. A&M's under a double-digit favorite. So let's just keep an eye on that game. It's an early kickoff. It's on the road. Missouri's rested. Let's just keep an eye on that game. Number 20 is Clemson. They're floating there. I believe there's probably going to come a time over the back half of the season where Clemson's going to end up top 15 again. I think they're going to play better football. The model's going to pick up on it. Kentucky, now look, I'm not even going to start to try and explain this to you. Kentucky did not drop after they won against LSU. They didn't drop. Some other teams moved up ahead of them. I have a hard time getting the words out because I do think Kentucky's underrated. In this model, I do think they're underrated. In fact, I would take Kentucky over either of the 3 teams that are listed right above them right there. For the record, if you're listening on podcast, that would be Michigan State, Notre Dame, and Iowa State. Computers all like Iowa State more than the eyeball does right now. It's not personal preference, although I love that the computers love them. That's not me manually bumping Iowa State up. Top 15 time, Pittsburgh. Very sneaky out there. Pittsburgh, kind of anonymous, not on the national radar. Good team, though. They're at 15. Oregon's at 14. Oregon is kind of an enigma right now. They've had some injuries. They've been missing their offensive coordinator. They play on a Friday night. They play Cal. They're about a 2-touchdown favorite. Gave some consideration in the preseason to go into that game. I ended up not going out there. Arkansas has not fallen a whole lot. They lost another game. I mean, if they hit the 2-point conversion and they win the game, does it make them a different team? Not really. So that was their 3rd consecutive trip on the road, by the way. So we got Arkansas at 13. They have lost to teams that we've got ranked ahead of them. So we're not going to drop them. They're supposed to lose those games if this model's right. Arizona State, the team I've been probably the most wrong on, is 12. Florida's at 11. And now let's go top 10. Texas is still in the model's top 10. And this does not surprise me because I think that now you got to start calibrating a little bit more. I'm not putting Texas top 5. Notice that. Top 10. So when you talk about being in the top 10, you don't have to be perfect. In fact, if you're just high level on either side of the ball, this year in college football, that's good enough for a power rating to have you top 10. Iowa is number 9. We're going to get a lot of pushback on that. I don't know how much more plain I can tell you. Iowa, in a power rating format, is not looked at the same way they are in a merit-based ranking format. Iowa deserves, in the playoff picture of the AP, to be number 2. That's where I'd have them, for the record. But an odds maker would laugh at that. And it's two totally different worlds. So Iowa's at 9. Michigan is at 8. Look at that. We got some Big Ten flavor here. It doesn't look all that too dissimilar from the AP poll. Ole Miss is still at 7. Ole Miss has not dropped a whole lot, even though, they allowed 50 last week. Again, we're talking about a team that's elite on one side of the ball. If you're elite only on one side of the ball, you're not going to be top 3, or top 2, or number 1. But if you can do it on one side, you can be top 10. If you're that good, you can be top 10. Penn State's number 6. They dropped a couple of spots. Now look, it needs to be noted, this is Penn State, and we have basically a question mark at quarterback. So if Sean Clifford, number 1, didn't get hurt last Saturday, they would have won the game, I think. We all understand that. And number 2, that doesn't mean anything because he did get hurt. So there's the Iowa rebuttal. And number 3, the model doesn't know how to handle that because they are not good offensively without him. They showed some promise with him. Basically, there's just a TBD. That's what Penn State's ranking might as well be. How about top 5 here to round it out? Number 5 is Cincinnati. They are up 1 spot. Oklahoma's starting to move. I had a suspicion this would happen, and there is reason to believe Oklahoma is about to hit a little different notch. Now we got to wait for Saturday. They play TCU, so we got to see it validate itself. You can't just assume it's going to happen. Oklahoma's at 4. Ohio State's at 3. I told you, according to odds makers, would be favored by over 8 points against every other team in the Big Ten. At least 8 points. Bama is at number 2. We now have them 1.5 points behind Georgia. Georgia takes the number 1 spot. It's the first time that we have traded those teams and put Georgia at number 1, which is pretty noteworthy because we don't see that a lot that deep in the season. So Georgia, Bama, 1-2. Got Ole Miss in there at 7. Got some Penn State, Michigan love, Iowa. Texas, I think, is probably, I don't know, the one you'd probably argue the most. But I think I explained it fairly well. You can disagree if you want. That's fine. I've had worse pushback.